Well,
Welcome back to Real Chill Conversation, guys.
Hey.
If you haven't
hello, hello.
subscribed to our channel, please do so at Real Chill Conversations. You can follow us on Facebook and on Instagram with the same name, Real Chill Conversations. Today I had two topics, but I want to definitely talk about this one first, and then I'll go into the other one. I want to start with the submarine that recently went missing.
Yes.
So the reports have now determined that it actually imploded on its way down to the Titanic.
Yes.
Listen, this has been on the news how many times? I think
It hasn't left the news since the story first broke.
exactly. Um, so I wanted to talk about this today because I want to know y'all opinion in the way that y'all feel about this story. Like, let me know because I really think it's crazy. I mean, RIP to all the people who lost their life,
Right.
honestly, but we got to talk about it.
We got to talk about spending $250,000 to go on this journey only
Mm.
to implode moments after you descend down to the Titanic. Okay? 250,000 stacks it costs
Times
to go on
five.
this journey in a vessel that was the size of a minivan, and it was traveling about 2.5 miles to the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, which it said it would take about 2 hours to reach the sunken Titanic ship and another 2 hours to get back to the surface, plus time for exploration.
And not only that, Brenda, but it said it took it was like an hour and like 45 minutes to their ride, and then
Yeah.
they lost connection.
Yes.
And then the connection was not even internet connection, it was like text messages.
Yes.
So I heard
Yes.
this story. I'm sorry, y'all. I heard this story and I'm like, what the else and why? Because I really thought at first that the whole story was fake.
Yeah.
I mean, just my opinion. I'm sorry, but if I was a billionaire at the bottom of the ocean, I mean, I don't know what y'all think. Would y'all pay $250,000 to go on this trip?
No.
Absolutely not.
No. I'm not doing it.
Let me know
Um,
your thoughts.
I
the,
really
tit-
no.
the Titanic has been at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean for years and years and years and years and years. And, there were a lot of lives that were lost when that ship originally went on its journey. And I think there's so much more to the story with that whole sinking of the ship and then the remnants of that we even know about. So that's not something that I want to dive into, and I'm certainly not going to dive 250,000 of my well-earned dollars into that type of exploration.
So, ladies, again, I always thank you guys for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and I love the contrast in the things we talk about because, like, you guys' perception, my perception, how it all just balances out and everything. I really love that because it's different angles to a thing. But I'm never going to try to take away. I'm always going to try to add to. So here I am. So for me, again, everything has to make sense. I'm an investigative guy. My awareness is always up. I totally pay attention to details. So I ain't going to let nobody slide no lies in on me ever. So I feel personally that Number one, red flags. I'm gonna point out red flags for me. Number one, why on earth would you? That's $250,000 times five. And I feel like if that much money is at stake and that much money is like around the whole situation, where was the safety measures? At my job, I'm always in a supervisor position, and everybody, all my crew, they know my pet peeve is safety first at work. Okay. So where were the safety measures? You got you got over $1 million invested right here, and there's billionaires. Like, where are the safety measures in case something goes wrong? I saw none of that over this story, and that makes no sense to me. Secondly, I would have to add that what is the goal? What was the purpose? Like, of all the things you could do, you chose to do the Titanic thing. And here you got these billionaires in here going down there for whatever reason, but there was no safety measures.
And
Uh,
Mr. West, I completely understand your question because, like, I would definitely, it would not be definitely in my agenda to say, okay, yeah, let me go die. I'm sorry. Like, it's a bad situation. It was a horrible situation. But this little minivan replica was a tiny carbon dioxide tube, and they said that they couldn't even see the Titanic from like a glass window or anything. It was like from a little screen inside the tube. Like, really? Like, I could have they could have made like a green screen of the Titanic or something, for people to see it and stuff. Like, I just can't do it. I can't.
No, I think it's one of those situations where, when people have money and they just have more money than they know what to do with, they do these types of things to be able to say that they did it. Just like those that are planning to, take that, trip into outer space, paying $1 million so that they can take that trip into outer space. I mean, that's just not something that I'm interested in spending my well-earned money on. I don't care if I'm a billionaire or not. I'm not doing it because, like Mr. West said, where were the safety precautions? Where were the safety measures? Y'all spent so much time trying to put this trip together, figured out how much money you were going to make and how you were going to profit off of it, and have all these, millionaires and billionaires joining this, this excursion in a submarine the size of a minivan. I don't understand how it could even have. It says that it was built to withstand the pressure of descending nearly 2.5 miles into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, but I don't buy it. The size of a minivan. I know submarines are small, but that's just I just don't know how people I don't know how people do it. I mean, my husband was in the Navy. I know they departed on ships and on vessels and all that kind of stuff. And water travel like doesn't scare me. I'm not scared to get on a boat. I'm not scared to get on a yacht. That doesn't bother me. Power boating, power sailing, things like that. That's fine. But that's on top of the water. That's not going 2.5 miles underneath to get to the ocean floor to find a
so
sunken ship.
there's 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 definitely one more red flag, one more thing that just doesn't make sense for me. 13 successful trips down and up. This was the 14th one. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to always look at the red flags. 13 successful trips down and back up. This was the 14th one. Let's be clear. Now, it just makes me wonder, 13 successful, this particular one, disaster. Not saying things can't happen, but 5 trips, you could second guess. 10 trips, you might be like, okay, it's no fluke. But you do 13 and then the 14th one all of a sudden goes belly up. That does not make sense to me.
Put
And
me on
that's what I want to
put the
point out.
Titanic on the green screen for me. I'm not going in space. I'm not playing with space. and I
Nope.
want to play underwater.
No.
Like I can spend that $250,000, right? It's something else. Like I don't know. I hate this. I happen to these guys. But I'm still like, why? Like the submarine was made and put together with home depot parts.
Oh wow.
Like, no, like I really thought about this, and like I said, at first I thought it was fake. I thought it was so unreal. Like I never thought that people would actually go down there like that and just on anything. I mean, the Titanic is deteriorating down there.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see that.
It doesn't make
Like
sense, right?
actually going down
Does
there
it make
with
sense
No,
myself.
it doesn't make sense. And
to spend a
also
quarter
the
million dollars to go down there? Does that make sense? No. Continue.
and the producer of the Titanic, the director, James Cameron, has said that he's made the trip down to the dive down to the Titanic multiple times, and he needed to do that in order to prepare for the movie and all things surrounding the movie and to have a familiarity around that. So, how come nothing happened to him during his journeys down to the Titanic?
Exactly. And then you cannot, okay, let me tell y'all, because it was the report also, because I do my research before I start talking about anything. But this thing was bolted shut and can only be opened from someone from the outside.
Oh no, that's a
No
no for me.
connection, no internet connection, of course, because you're underwater. Only text messages. I mean, the submarine was controlled by a PlayStation controller. I mean, if I would have looked at that, I would have been like, no.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with a term? It's called starships and rockets.
Yes.
Yes.
So the theory is while you're looking up in the heavens at the celestial stuff, what's really going on in your back pocket, you're being bamboozled. So it's diverting attention. Now I'm just throwing this out here because again, I'm like you, Dominic. I do my research before I even open my mouth. And so what I have to offer is this: there were some really big stories that broke the same day as the submerged submarine Titanic thing. And there were two things specifically in the news that broke the same day that I paid attention to. Number one, there were 700 like refugees trying to flee to come to America on a boat. Every one of them perished. The whole boat sank. This was the same day. Also, on the same day that the submarine story broke, the USDA approved lab grown meat
Oh, I
safe for,
posted that. Yeah.
safe for human consumption. So,
Yes.
like, while they got us looking 20,000 leagues under the sea at a submarine, our attention is diverted while they're doing all this above ground.
Right.
All this is happening above ground. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but through my investigation and my research, like it makes me wonder. So I'm putting that out there. What do you guys think about those two theories I just posed?
I believe in those theories. I believe that, there's a lot of diverting and a lot of distracting that's going on. And I think that there's certain articles and certain items that are placed in the news to distract us from what's really going on over here, what's really going on over there, what's really going on up here, what's really going on down there. And like you said, the same day that this happened, there was, other major events that were going on, but everyone was so focused on these five people that unfortunately perished in this implosion of this submarine headed towards the Titanic, and have been so hyper focused on this story and trying to figure out, what went wrong and what happened, and trying to give us an explanation, which right now there still really is none other than it imploded. Well, what do you expect of something that's put together with spare parts and, piecemeal like that, that's not wasn't specifically just constructed for this type of journey, this type of submersion. It's just something that they decided to, wing it and put it together and pay your $250,000 and then here we go. We're gonna go see the Titanic.
We got,
Listen, I am
yeah.
not about to play with y'all. It's not even about talking the adventure. It's not even talking about the adventure. But where, like, how you got to think about how this thing was even made. And it tells you, I mean, they have like a sign, you have the chance of dying. I mean, I just don't understand, y'all. You're looking at a screen. You're not even looking at I can see if the submarine had windows or something. You're actually looking at the Titanic, but you're looking at a screen,
Here's the
right?
thing.
So then
Here's
you
the
just have
thing.
a video camera that's just showing you images of the Titanic on a screen inside your submarine that's the size of a minivan.
Yeah, and the AI needs to make something where you can see the Titanic without even having to go 2+ miles down. Like I'm just saying, like
So no, so somebody see. Here's the thing for me. Again, when we talk about the design of the craft, it was carbon shelled and it should have been steel and it wasn't. This is what they're saying as
exactly,
far as the design. As far
exactly.
as the design. But again, to the design, I must reiterate 13 successful trips with that same design that it had in the beginning. Nothing changed. It made 13 successful trips. Okay. Now, the theory is what some are implying is that the shell was made out of carbon this instead of carbon steel. And after 13 trips, it wore it down. So it just broke down on the 14th trip. Okay, some are saying that. And that's plausible. But even more than that, somebody needs see, so let me show you some. The Machiavellian theory. The Machiavellian theory, we must ponder this or just throw this in here because the reason why I say it, there's no bodies. Because that is what's gonna happen if you go that far deep and your craft isn't stable enough to withstand it, then you're going to have an implosion. Therefore, you would have no bodies. Understand this. I'm saying setting the stage. So now when people say, give me a body, oh, there's no body. There's not going to be no body in an implosion like that. What I'm saying is the Machiavellian theory. Show me a body. Until you show me a body, I got to just take your word that they're dead.
But Mr.
For,
West, didn't they know that from the get go when they
for,
heard the noises? When they heard
for,
the noises, wasn't that the implosion?
For all I know, that
Yeah.
submersion went so far down, they got lifted out of that submersion, went into another vehicle, craft, went along and got away. For all I know, I haven't seen a body. There's no body to be seen. This was, I mean, you can set the stage, like the stage is set. So when people say, where's the body? Then they can answer, there's no bodies. That thing's going to implode down there. You can't find no remains. Okay, let's say it was a plot. Let's say it was, I don't know those people are dead. God bless their family if they are. But until you can show me some bones, bodies, some DNA, some proof, then hey, I'm gonna lean to my own understanding. I'm not just gonna take whatever nobody tells me.
That's true.
Like there's no bodies there. Could there be a reason? Could they have set the stage properly? It all makes sense with the implosion like that deep, you won't find no bodies. So when people start to question where the bodies, they got a legitimate explanation. But how do I know that thing didn't go all the way 2 miles deep? It went a quarter of a mile deep. Something else picked them up and they kept going. The thing kept going. They say it imploded. Now everybody's thinking they're dead. For all I know, the Machiavellian theory.
And the 19-year-old did not want to go. And he was probably right about his intuition.
Yeah. I always
So
say pay attention to your intuition.
yeah, because here's the thing about intuition. What I understand is we always do this. We'll be like, I should have followed my first mind. And whenever we don't follow our first mind, something bad usually happens
Yeah.
because your first mind is your God mind. See, here how it works. The devil can't come before God. He got to take the second seat. So the first mind is always your God mind. Follow your intuition because the devil cannot come before God. It's up to us to say, I'm going to follow my first mind or I'm going to follow my second mind. Just know God comes first. That second mind is
I
not
always say
God.
that follow your first instinct because that's God
Yeah,
talking to you. And
that's right.
whenever I reflect on my past and look at situations where I didn't follow my first instinct and I went with the second option,
It
shit
was
always went
bad.
left.
You better
It
know
always
it.
went left. It always went
You
left.
better know it. You better know it. Factory.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, so look. So here's my thing. I can't honestly sit here and say I know for 100% of a fact that it was a diversion to distract us from what was going on. But I do know this. We can call it coincidence, we can call it bad timing, we can call it whatever we want. But I did see those 700 people. Seven, like Obama said when he spoke on it, like my heart goes out to those five people. But tell me, make it make sense to me how five lives overshadow 700. It got no coverage. That doggone lab
So
grown
Because
meat.
right.
those 700 people didn't spend $250,000 trying to get over here and to seek refuge.
Point in
And
case. Exactamundo. You are so right.
yeah.
So, hey, look, they got meat. Look at here. The same day again, I got to say it again. They got meat. And it don't come off a body of an animal. They literally took some cells and grew meat, probably in a doggone test tube to begin with. I don't know how they did it, but the same day, here it is, the USDA approved lab grown meat on the same day. We're talking about diversion. Possibly it could have been a diversion. I don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and say I know 100%, but I'm going to put it out there. So you got this freaking meat don't even come off the body of an animal. At least clone the animal and let us slaughter it and cut the meat off of it and eat it. At least. But don't just grow a meat with no animal body attached to it. It's just a meat. And they approved it. So as soon as it was approved, June the 21st, you know that stuff started pumping down the assembly lines. It's already been shipped out to distribute it to grocery stores, restaurants, and all of that. But they know that'll start mass hysteria. You got to understand how the government works. So they don't want mass hysteria. So they will do what they must do to slide stuff in. So because people would have screamed bloody murder, and you'd be surprised out of the what 7.7 billion people on the earth, how many people, even though it's been since the 21st, the USDA approved it for the United States specifically. How many people are unawares? And it's been since the 21st. It's been a week already. And people are
Yeah.
still unaware of this meat, but could it be a diversion with the submarine? Possibly. Because I
But
ain't
I
seen a
have
body
this
yet.
question. Didn't we already have that kind of meat?
No, ma'am. Well, we had it, but it wasn't approved for human consumption. See,
Oh,
here's the
okay.
thing. It was approved by the USDA for human consumption. They've been toying with it. Yeah, you're right about that. But it was not approved. So when it get approved, understand this. Once it got approved on June the 21st, they immediately start shipping it out, distributing it to your restaurants and your grocery stores.
Yeah, it says two companies have received the green light to produce and sell chicken that they have cultivated from cells. USDA
Right.
approves first lab grown chicken in the United States.
Exactamundo. Other countries ain't jumping on board, but you know the United States is already because they're the forerunners of it. And hold on, let me go back because this is not to take away from the discussion. Again, I never try to take away. I'm always only trying to add to. All
I
right,
want to thank DJ Black Hayes for tuning in. Hello.
Hey,
Thank
DJ
you.
Black Haze.
appreciate you.
So we're gonna be through with this discussion because honestly, I don't see it in my view. I just it's too many holes in the story,
Right,
and I just can't get it together.
me either.
Mm-mm.
I'm still up in the air.
I can't make it make sense.
I
I'm
can't
still
make it make sense.
deliberating. I'm still deliberating. The verdict hasn't came back yet.
Yep. I
But
can't make it
let's
make
I
sense.
wanted to talk about this other topic too though, because I've been interested on it for a while. And the reason I've been interested on it is because I actually, you know, expressed my opinion on the Real Chill Conversations page on Facebook, talking about the dozens of towns that have been hidden underwater and made into lakes. And for example, since I'm here in the ATL, we're going to talk about Lake Lanier
Okay.
in
Let's do it.
Forsyth, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
People go fishing, swimming, and everything else.
And they go disappearing.
But before, like, they turned the lakes. Okay, so it was Oscarville, Georgia.
Oscarville, Georgia. It was a black town. Very,
Yes,
very, very successful black town in Georgia.
yes.
And that's the city that is underneath. They said there's still full on buildings and 60-foot trees
Oh,
are
facts,
underneath that lake. Yes.
facts. It was drowned. It was a thriving colored people community. And I'm going to say colored people. But in 1912, two teens were accused of raping a white woman.
Yes.
And they were executed not too long after that. The mob went around, the white mob went around killing black people, and the people was ran away off their properties.
Right. They were setting fires and throwing fire bombs, and they destroyed the church, which was the heart of the community, and all that. Yep, the mob ran them out, and then the white people took over the land.
And I
And it was also very, very popular. We just talked about lab-grown meat, but it was also very popular and very successful in raising chicken.
Yep. And after all of this, they made a lake. They flooded the town and covered it with water. The town is still underwater, and people still can swim and boat ride and fish and do whatever they want freely in this water.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get y'all opinion about this because yeah, it's interesting, and I did my research because I was interested about it because when I okay, let me tell y'all my story. Let's back up a minute. I've been to Lake Lanier. I
Same
didn't want
here.
my kids to swim in that water for some reason. My intuition said no. Um, so that's what I'm talking about today because I really like my intuition told me no. Like it feels every time I went there, it was like a certain feeling that I had that it wasn't right until I started looking into the actual story of what was going on with Lake Lanier. And it's
Right.
not just Lake Lanier though, it's many other parts that were made into something else. And yeah, like there has been so many reports about people and kids coming up missing and so many accidents, but you
Yes.
can't find these people.
Right.
You don't know. Okay, so let's talk about it. Coaliga, Alabama / Lake Martin, Central Park, York Hill Community. The colored people were kicked out of their home, led to Seneca Village, only for that to be destroyed and also become Central Park. Are they Were they trying to erase colored people that were actually coming up in these communities?
Yes.
What do you think, Mr. West?
Okay, so through my rigorous studies, what I have recovered was that we got to go back. I'm going to take you back just a tad bit, and I'm speaking specifically to Lake Lanier. In 1893, prior to 1912, there were Indians in that same location that they call Oscarville. It was a massacre there first. So basically, the same thing that was done to the Negroes in 1912, it was already done in 1893 to the Indians in that same exact location called Oscarville. And so when they did what they did to Oscarville, you got to understand the Indians are very, very spiritual, etheric people, and they what they don't play about is their burials and their burial grounds. Understand this. Prior to Oscarville, there was the Indian burial ground in the Indian land, and they massacred the Indians first, right there in 1893, before it was even named Oscarville. Okay, and they were Indian burial grounds, and those Indians are connected to the universe and the ancestors and the Creator, in my personal opinion. And after the Indian massacre there in what we know as Oscarville, Oscarville then came to existence. They massacred them. Now, here's the misconception I don't like. It's an excavation, if you will. It's a running out of a certain race of people. So they say in 1912 they ran all the blacks out successfully before they flooded the town. But in all honesty, my research says different. My research says they killed them, murdered, and just flooded them. See, they want us to believe that every black got out of that town alive. But no, 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 no. They drowned them right there, killed them right there, and those people, most of them didn't make it out. Understand this as well. Those in 1912, those blacks that were there, they were not sharecroppers. They were just like us. And just for instance, like we got our EINs and our LLCs and we're doing our business. They were doing the same
Absolutely.
thing without
Absolutely.
all the technical rigmarole. Those people had their land. I seen people in 1912 when that happened, $1,500 they paid for their land. They
Yep.
most of them, the largest percent of them was made to run out of there, leave the land, but some of them who were up and good with the people in power were able to recoup a little money, like $500. Now they spent 1,500, and back then you got to understand what that looks like. So they spent $1,500, and just a few of them were able to recoup some of it. Like, okay, I'll buy your stuff for $500, and they had to take it and go, or they would be like the other 88% and just get ran out with nothing. Okay, and it was a thriving community. Okay, but here's the thing: a lot of those people were not made it out, and they were actually drowned and killed right there. But the history tries to tell us that they made it all out or whatever. Also, uh, so they situated Negroes in certain geographical locations. Understand this: Oscarville was already deep in a valley. Okay, that's why it was easy to flood it. There wasn't much they had to mechanically do to make it a hole. It was already in a valley. They situate us through history. If you look at Lake Martin and all the other lakes around where this has happened, you will notice they're already in valleys. Those black communities were set in valleys because people think ahead. These people are diabolical. So they're always thinking ahead. So they specifically placed the Negroes then in valleys. And Oscarville was in a valley, like Lake Martin Valley. And they put us in there and let us make our communities in the valley. And then when it came time, it wasn't hard to flood it. It's already in a valley. They didn't have to do much digging or excavating or anything. Okay. And
Well, they also were supposed to relocate the cemeteries and the burials, and
they
they
didn't.
didn't. They just
They didn't
flooded.
do it for the
They just
Indians.
went ahead and they flooded it.
And so now what happened is they got two different branches of melanated people who they have transgressed through murder, rape, and pillaging and killed them. Now you got that. If you don't think about the Indians, they're one of the most spiritual people connected with the universe and the ancestors that I know. So that is a real thing. And then us as whoever may be African American, we know we're connected because the Indians come from us first. So when you see a totem pole, okay, I'm gonna take you down. So when you see a totem pole, no wonder it's 20 feet tall. Because we were tall. See, Indians were not really good with verbal language. They were more like the Egyptians. They made pictures and painting, and that's how they communicated. They weren't really good verbally. So they used other forms of communication to pass down. And Indians took a tree, like the tallest tree they could find, and they made totem poles. But what you got to do is look at a totem pole. You got to look at, they found the darkest tone tree, first of all, to make it out of. That symbolizes our melanation. Secondly, if you look at a totem pole, you got to look at the height of it. You're looking at the color first, then the height, then look at the faces that those Indians kind of twiddle or however they do it, sculpted into the tree. And they got broad noses, big lips, high cheekbones. Just look at what the Indians made in their totem poles, and you will know they were saying, hey, these are my people. I met these people. I come from them. And that was, the totem pole was made to communicate to younger Native American generations to know who we as Afro people really are. Okay. So with that being said, these people have messed around and got two different deals of melanated people who are connected with the universe, ancestors, and spirituality, and you didn't made a big mistake. And that is why that man said on the documentary I watched about Lake Lanier, people from around there all their lives, they said, when people go into there and they go down, it's not like they're struggling to fight up out the water. They go in and they get sucked down. And they don't pop back up. Ain't no struggle. They're just gone.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And we,
And Henry and McKee Islands under Lake Gunnersville in Alabama, Banport, Oregon, located under Delta Park. All of these towns are under some. Over 100 towns drowned, and this has happened by who? Exactly.
there's so much I learned, and I'm so glad, Dominique and Brenna. I have to thank you guys for inviting me because you sparked my mind to think about things, and I went to looking, and guess what I found out about the 40 acres and a mule. I was researching about Lake Lanier. What I
Yeah.
found out about 40 acres and a mule, it was a real law. It was a real thing. It
Yeah.
started with 400,000 acres,
Hmm.
400,000 acres from the Atlantic coast of North Carolina all the way down that east coast to the tip of Florida. It was
Yep.
400,000 acres. It was a real law. But what happened was when Lincoln got assassinated, Andrew on a $10 bill, he was the vice president. So when Lincoln got assassinated and Andrew became the president, of course, because he was the vice, he rescinded the law of 40 acres and a mule. It was a real law. It was a real thing. But when the presidency changed, this guy on the $10 bill rescinded the law. So there's no 40 acres and a mule no more. But it was a real thing. But here's the thing, it was only 400,000 acres. Like, it was only go so far. But it was prime, ideal, coastal property. It was on the Atlantic Ocean, like the whole from North Carolina where it started, all the way down to just entering Florida. That's plush coastal. That is oceanfront property, literally.
Well, it really makes me think about all the lakes that we have, like
Yeah.
Lake Lanier. over 700 people have died, 27 now found.
That's
It's,
true.
and I could say Usher, talked about his son died from
His
injury.
son, yep, had
Um,
that accident on Lake Lanier and he wound up passing away. Yep.
exactly. Ti
Oh
said he would
wow,
never
I
go
didn't know
there.
that.
Like you have big people actually coming out and speaking up on this situation. Um, I mean, some texts are old, definitely.
So, do you think it's a coincidence that all these lakes are were prior valley communities of Negroes? They situate us in the valleys because all these communities, Lake Lanier, Logan Martin, all these lakes and all these stories. Is it a coincidence or by design did that happen to be Negro communities in the valley? Why did they put us down in the depths? You think it was a reason so they could flood us out when they wanted to? Do you think they knew of an advantage? Like it's not a coincidence. Why weren't we on highland? Why weren't we on the top of the hill with our communities? Why were these communities in deep in the valley?
I'm
Was it by
sorry. I
design?
think it's by design.
Yeah, I'm
I
with
think
that.
it's about design. Oscarville was, it was buried under Lake Lanier, set on fire by night riders. 1912, colored people had to be forced out of their homes, and they actually owned those homes.
They
They
own
owned it
those
all. Yeah,
homes,
that
their
was their
Like
schools,
businesses,
these were
schools,
hospitals.
thriving communities.
churches.
We had
They say
schools,
farming was
churches,
booming and
hospitals.
everything.
We had
Yeah.
agriculture. We had everything going on. It was successful black community and it was a model and a blueprint for us and those that come after us. They had set a model up for us to follow by and they tried to erase it again and again. And what really got me was this. So here's what they said. This ain't my words. After my research on watching, they said one white woman, well, not even, I don't consider her a white woman because she was only like 18 or 19 years old. They got raped and murdered. Now, through my rigorous studies again, all of my years of studying, the narrative repeats itself. There's a white woman back then, I'm talking back then, she gets raped and murdered. They get a black and kill him. But when it all comes out, it was a white man who did it. Her dad, her uncle, some creep, basically.
Hmm.
Okay, but they're gonna blame it on the black dude because they got a scapegoat. Back then, we got to put our minds
Exactly,
in
and
that year.
executed them the same day.
Yeah.
So it was the one guy they got him. They got
Yeah,
him and they
they
drug him
hung
through the
him.
town. They lynched him. They burnt him. And then
Yep.
two more suspects came up a day later. They took them to court, did all and killed them. It was three altogether. It was one initially charged with it. And then they came back with two more as his accomplices or whatever and killed them
Hmm.
too. But that was just on their diabolical greed for death. And just, it's just their DNA. Like, I'm just sorry, but like, I am not sorry. So,
Yeah.
and see, this narrative repeats itself through history.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it
Yep.
make you think about any other lake. It makes you think
Yeah,
about New Orleans. I'm sorry, I'm gonna throw that out there. Y'all might think I'm crazy.
I don't.
But I'm gonna throw that out there too. I mean, um, look at this. How can you say it's haunted because of high number of drownings and officials say because of the tree? Okay, so the officials came out and say, well, we can't find these people because of the amount of trees and debris that have limited the findings of people because of the fear of getting stuck in these things. But you have a lake over a town.
Right.
Yeah, I still can't get that.
So here's the thing what I know about engineering, okay? When you first make up this plan and say we're going to lake this place out, all right? You got engineers and they know how much water to put to raise it up so much, and they know how many feet they got from the surface of the water to where they start to meet the remnants of the city. Okay, understand this. There's hold on one second.
Are y'all still here?
Yeah, still here.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Mr. West, you're making all the sense.
Yep.
I like it because I truly feel the same way, and it interested me why I felt that way when I went to Lake Lanier.
Yeah.
Why I didn't want my kids to swim in that lake.
Yeah.
You know,
It was
the
definitely
vibe was just not right.
it was definitely scary, and I didn't understand why I felt that way either. And then when I did my research and looked up Lake Lanier, I didn't realize that it had all that history behind it. Like the only thing that I had really heard or that I knew about Lake Lanier at the time was that Usher's son was involved in a jet ski accident and wound up passing away as a result of that accident on Lake Lanier. That's all I really knew about it. But then when I started, digging and doing my research and deep diving into the actual history, then I learned that it was a whole town, a black community, a thriving black community of business owners and farmers and teachers and educators and black people in all different types of professions, living and running a successful town, and that being run out of that town, with the mob that came and set the fires and threw the bombs and all of that. Then they flooded it, and they had one choice. They were all trying to make it to Gainesville, and it was either you swim or you drown. And so a lot of people lost their lives, in that regard. They were supposed to move buildings and move cemeteries. They didn't move all the buildings. They didn't move all the cemeteries. They just flooded them out. So that is why there's an exact whole town still sitting under there. They didn't demolish the trees. They didn't knock the trees down before they let the floodgates open. They just let them open and said, the water's going to cover it up. We're creating the Buford Dam. We're going to open up the dam.
Exactly. We're gonna open up the dam.
Yep. And just flood it out. So I think it definitely was done, with intention, and the intention was not for the best intention. And I think with that, you think about the history of things and how things come into play, and just the history of Lake Lanier in and of itself is very mysterious and is very suspicious. And so there's no real reason why people should question why there's such a high number of drownings and why there's such a high number of people that drown in that lake and then wound up not ever being found. How are you still missing 3 and 4 years after you drown in that lake?
Because they have a whole town in the bottom of it
Exactly.
and they can't
Exactly.
figure it out. I mean, you
They're
can still see the cemetery
right.
um underwater.
Exactly.
And that was my biggest fear. I was like, I am not gonna swim in this water. I am
Yeah.
not gonna get in this water. I always felt that intuition, like something is going on. If you um go back to the history and you do your research, it's like it's gonna tell you automatically that something went on here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're not gonna
Yeah.
feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable. I did not feel comfortable. I'm sorry. I can't say I did. I never did.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like it was a safe place.
No,
Um,
it's very
when you
scary.
have that much mourning with people that actually lost their lives, behind an injustice,
Right.
then of course
Yeah.
you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that. And if you
Yep.
don't know the history of Lake Lanier and the lakes that are around you, just please look into it because you will definitely find your answers. It's part of history, and we, try to ignore things, but I mean, some things just can't be ignored. That's
They
why I
can't
wanted
be
to talk about
ignored.
it because I want to know
Yep.
y'all opinion about
Yeah.
how y'all felt about this situation and the whole ongoing thing. Because till this day, they still try to do that, but in different ways.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely keep it in mind.
Mr. West, you still here? Oh, I think he probably his signal drop or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this was a great conversation.
It was
You know,
very enlightening. And it really shows you the importance of doing your research and, staying informed so that you can always make informed decisions and so that you can know what's really going on.
exactly. And that's what you want to know because you listen. Before I come on here, I'm gonna do my research.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here.
And I'm not just going to YouTube. I'm talking about I'm reading, I'm going through stuff. I love to read.
Yeah,
I'm going through stuff. I'm like looking at things and I'm putting two and two together. And I was like, this
right.
just don't sound right.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I mean, it's part of history. I think they owe a lot of people some checks, especially with running them out of their property.
Yeah.
Um, what you got going on for the next podcast?
I think we're gonna take a dive into some of our relationship situations and just things that come up in relationships and just how to navigate that whole crazy dynamic of when you are involved with someone and how to pick your battles, how do you get through the tough times because the fun times are all good, right? They're always
Yeah,
all
they're
good.
all good.
But
Yes.
when you have a problem, how do you navigate that problem and successfully overcome it to get back on the same page if y'all have fallen off the same page? How do y'all get back?
Absolutely.
How do you get back on track? So I think we're going to talk about that next week.
Well, I can't wait.
Yes.
And thank y'all so much for coming in today.
Thanks for
I
joining us.
think Mr. West, he's gone. So I think his
Okay.
signal drop or something. But
Bye, Mr.
we'll
West.
see y'all again.
All right, y'all. Have a good night. And thanks for joining us for another great episode. See
And
you next
don't
week.
forget to subscribe to the channel and like and share because that really
Yes.
help us
Yes. Yes.
with
Yes.
our channel. And you can be on this platform and no judge. It's a no judgment free zone,
Judgment
right?
free. Yep.
So
Judgment
you
free.
can speak your mind and give us your opinion about stuff. And I think it's a really good platform just to give everybody a voice. So peace out, and we will get ready for Brenna.
All right. See y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.